What's up, motherfuckers? What's up? What's happening? It's a cold day today, so I'm shivering. But Jesus don't want me for no sunbeams. Might not be the longest practice day, but we gotta put do our due diligence. Alright, so step one was go down the list here. Stretches. We gotta get some blood flowing into these fingers. Alright. We can skip the stretches today. Let's just go right into that spider walk. So, I saw some very good videos last night about another concept we can add to our miscellaneous skills list that I think could be the bridge for us between alternate picking and sweep picking. And so I'm very excited to try to practice that. We can try to get some beginner steps on that today. But it's a concept called economy picking. Not to be confused with economy, but economy picking is sort of like the merger of alternate picking and sweep picking. And so basically, let's say you're playing within a scale. When you're playing within one phrase, like let's say it's a 3-note per string scale variation, you do the alternate picking, right? You do the alternate picking within the line. But when you descend to the next string, rather than maintaining the alternate picking thing, let me just stop for a second so I can explain this concept. In fact, I'll probably try to emulate it. So let's say we're playing an A major, right? We have this shape. So if we were playing if we were playing with alternate picking in a 3-note per string setup, it would be as such: down, up, down, right? And then since we're on the next set of 3 notes per strings, we switch strings, we go up, down, up, and then we go to the next and it's down, up, down, and then up, down, up. And so the order of ups and downs switch, right? And then economy picking, or then sweep picking, for example, would be all down. So it'd be down, and then you'd hammer on to the things, down, and you'd sweep through. And then if, let's say you're going the other way, it'd be all upstrokes, right? So, but this is how economy picking merges those two ideas, right? So on one phrase, we'd be going down, up, down, down, down. So when we go to the next string, we sweep pick onto the next string. And so then we go down, up, down, down, right? And so there's an economy of motion. And so if you can master that technique, you can get that very, very, very fast picking from alternate picking. In fact, even faster, right? So. Now it's difficult to hear that difference, but there is a difference. And so basically it's like you're sweeping, you're playing alternate picking on the phrase, but you sweep onto the next string, right? So down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down. And so that is a very efficient way to pick, essentially. But we can get to that. Let's go to our spider walk variations. And so I think that's something I want to focus on, because that can help me ingrain the sweep picking idea on a smaller scale, right? And then trying to do these big sweep picking arpeggios. So I will say, it seems like our sweep picking is like very, very slowly, but continually just getting a little bit better, right? Like, that's extremely slow, but it's a sweep. So, let's just do the Cthulhu variation. Actually, we got all of these weird ones where you mess around with the fingering order. So, to reiterate, spider walk is normally first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, and it's all half steps. And you can maintain that same sort of half step, chromaticism, but then go second finger, fourth finger, first finger, third finger, or third finger, second finger, fourth finger, first finger, or first finger, fourth finger, second finger, third finger, and so on, and so forth, right? And then so you're basically making more complicated variations of the spider walk. And so let's just do 3 runs of each of those variations we have written down. Let me turn on the metronome. Let's play it not double speed so we can make sure we do this right. Alright, so that was 2, 4, 1, 3. And let's try it. I guess what we'll do is we'll do 3 runs, and then we'll do a second one where we go double speed. So here we go, this is double speed. And so the point of these spider walk exercises is that you're not even really thinking about music or music theory, it's all about finger coordination and clean technique, right? So if you can get all the notes to ring out cleanly, that is going to assist you in any scale, in any key, with any chord, with anything, right? And so it's the most basic principle within playing the guitar. Can you play the note cleanly? So this is 3-2-4-1. We'll slow it down. Oops. And then now we go to 4-3-1-2. Or we gotta do double speed for that variation. Quick. Alright. Oops. So I was watching some great videos about kind of the philosophy and theory of practicing, right? And it was that guy we've seen a lot of videos from, Klaus, from Creative Guitar, or is that Guitar Mastery? Is that the dude from creativeguitar.com or guitarmastery.com? I don't remember. But that dude Klaus, he was talking about how you gotta like practice the same thing like 50 times to the point of absurdity at a very, very, very slow speed with 0 mistakes. And you do that 50 times, and then when you go up to the speed you want to play it, it's like all of a sudden you can play it way better, right? And so I think today might not be the best day to implement all of that, but that is a good philosophy I think we got to try to think of. It doesn't have to be like as robotic as that 50 times and blah blah blah, but the idea of playing it at a slow speed to absolute perfection for a time that would be beyond what you'd normally want to play it, to the point of absurdity, right? It's not just getting through the exercise, it's mastering the exercise and playing it for an absurd amount of time, right? And then that's the only way you're really gonna get the immediate results that you're looking for, rather than like making small incremental improvement. Okay. So we got a couple more variations we can work through. I think it's a good idea just to work on these variations because I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time today, and those are pretty simple. So we just did 4-3-1-2, or we did 3-2-4-1. 4-3-1-2. This is 4-3-1-2. And so we got two other spider walk variations where we mess around with the fingering we can do, but let's just move on to the variation where it's like on two different strings. I call that one the Cthulhu for some reason. The Cthulhu. And so this is what I'm noticing. Whenever I make like a small mistake, normally I go, it's okay, it's whatever. But you know what? Maybe it's not okay. So. So, let's try that in double speed. See, that's a good exercise. I didn't like that one at first, but it works on some pretty good ideas. Potentially we should do that more, because normally I only do it like once and then I do it a little bit faster. We'll give that a couple more runs. In fact, I'm going to boost it up to 120. See, I think what the intention is for a lot of these spider walks is that you should be slowly raising the speed. But and that's what I tried to do towards the beginning of this stuff. But I ended up speeding up too quickly, and I started like technically getting my fingers quick enough to like play the notes, but they were very sloppy, and I wasn't anchoring my fingers, and there was a lot of technique problems. And so I decided to like stay at a slow speed and really work on the technique. But now I think we've worked our way back to the point where we have a very our technique has improved relatively significantly compared to where it was like 2 months ago or something like that in regards to the fingering technique for the spider walk, and so it would be worth increasing the speed. Oh, this reminds me. I had heard an incredible piece of information in regards to picking. rather than doing, so there's 3 levels. There isn't 3 levels, but let's just say there's 3 levels for the sake of explanation, right? Oftentimes when people start playing guitar, they use their entire forearm, right? So it's, but that's very bad, because if you're trying to pick precisely and using your whole forearm, that's terrible. I had some person come over and we were jamming, and the dude was playing with his entire forearm. Like, he didn't figure out that thing at all. He was like, I got it. Alright. Then the next level of that, right? What happens is then, well, I understand it's in the wrist. And they go up and down with the wrist. Like an axe motion, right? But this is what I learned. It's not up down. It's not up down. It's pendulum. You're rotating your wrist. You see this? Look. Like, you see how I'm rotating it? It's not up down. It's a rotation. And so if you want to play very cleanly at a fast speed and also not like fuck up your wrist, rotation. Now I'm extremely used to going up down, and so it's going to take a while to uningrain that motion. But clearly, if you've been trying to, if you actually are genuinely wrestling with the problem of how to become a better, cleaner, more controlled guitar player, it's so clear that you have to do that in pendulum motion. And so I wouldn't know precisely how to practice that, because let's say I'm playing, what's going to happen is I don't want to think about my picking hand while I'm playing, because that's going to distract you from the jam, and you're going to start fucking up rhythm and notes. So there must be some sort of exercise that can be derived. But I wouldn't know exactly where to start with that, to be honest. So I'll just keep that in the back of my mind. I'll try to kind of steadily work on that, look up for some information. But clearly the rotation makes more sense than like the up down. And I think potentially you can kind of switch between them depending on how you're playing. Like if you're doing like chords. No, I think even the rotation works for chords too. Anyways, whatever it is, it's gonna be a fucking struggle. So I want to work on this hammer-ons and pull-offs spider walk real quickly. I think our legato exercise is probably better at practicing the hammer-ons and pull-offs. because that's necessary for legato, and it also incorporates it into a musical context. But this is like an isolation exercise. It's like in fitness, right? Some exercises they hit like the whole fucking region, like it does the back and the arms and the I don't know. I'm not into fitness. Whereas some exercises isolate a single muscle. And so we're gonna work solely on the hammer-ons and pull-offs. Whereas when we go to legato, we're working on the hammer-ons and pull-offs, but we're incorporating it into the scalar ideas and like the larger kind of proto sweep. Yeah, I don't think my pull-offs are very arrhythmic. It's not that I can't get the notes to ring out. Listen, like the notes ring out, but it's difficult to maintain the rhythm. And so the question is, do I speed it up or do I slow it down to keep it on rhythm? I think I'm supposed to slow it down. But for some reason, it's more comfortable to play it quickly. Mostly because you could probably hide the mistakes easier. And so we gotta maybe try slowing it way the fuck down instead. These are hammer-ons. You pick at the bottom note and then you just, it's like tapping. This is what it is. It's exactly like tapping, but it's like only with your left hand. You don't use your right hand. I guess really tapping is more like hammer-ons and pull-offs, because that's a more basic technique. It's like the other way around. Even at the slow speed, the pull-offs are arrhythmic. So that's a problem. That's a big problem. And it's probably because pull-offs are like a technique you learned very early on, right? Because we use that in a lot of different shit, right? You put that in Zeppelin. And so I practice it playing at those fast, like, quick speeds. But now that I think about it, my pull-offs suck dick. They suck. They're arrhythmic as fuck. They're not perfect, like, eighth or quarter notes or whatever the fuck. And it's because I started doing them before I knew any theory or knew anything about rhythm. And so, um, sticking with this idea of isolation exercise, what could we come up with for like a pull-off exercise? Because we got the legato thing. That's like, here, we'll play it to 60. Right? Just like this. Hang on, it's a little quicker. So these are all hammer-ons pull-offs. But I think the main thing holding back our progress with the legato exercise is that our hammer-ons and pull-offs suck. So I think really our pull-off and hammer-on technique is actually fine. We have totally passable, probably in some regards a little above passable hammer-on and pull-off technique. What's I think really the problem is incorporating that into a rhythmic structure that makes sense, right? Alright, I gotta take a piss. But I'll be right back. Okay. Hammer-ons and pull-offs. Let's just work on these triads. You know, you could actually incorporate the hammer-ons and pull-offs into the vertical triads that we're trying to work on. So, let's get into it. Let's do the major triads. I'll do E major. And I'll work backwards instead of upwards because we're already at the octave. Oop, that's minor. I wonder how long we've been going. Alright, we're gonna make it to an hour. We will, I believe. This is important practice. You have to perform under pressure. Yeah, and so then once you learn these vertical triads, I don't know if we perfectly commit them to like perfect precision every time. But what you start to notice is that you start to kind of pick up on sort of these odd patterns within them. Like you don't always have to play them like totally vertically, like. But what happens is you can go up here, dun, dun, and then you can play this part of the triad. And since we're at this octave again, then we know that we can go up here. And so that's the utility of learning the vertical triads. It's not so that you can play them like vertically, all robotic like that. But then it's like it gives you extra sort of like it gives you extra sensory abilities to predict where the next note will be on a vertical axis. Like you see this shit right here? And basically what we're doing is we're going up into the next arpeggio shape of the three triads. Like it's three arpeggio shapes, triad, three positions. That's a really good, that's one of my favorite fucking ideas, right? If it's a 7-note scale, there's 7 modes. If it's a 5-note pentatonic, there's 5 positions. If it's a 3-note triad, then there's 3 positions. That's like once I understood that, my mind just exploded. But look, so check this out right here. So we have these order of triads, right? So vertical triads, right? It goes on the major goes 3 gap, 2 gap, and then a 4 gap, right? But that works if we ascend vertically, but then it also maintains the same if we ascend the inversions too, right? So we're at E major. We can go up 3 notes, and then that works. But then we can go down to the next string and do the pentatonic jump, because these are the same note. Like here's the vertical triad note, and then here's the regular triad note, and they're the same note, which means from here, that's up just 2 notes, and that's also up just 2 notes. And then for the next one, that's up 4 notes. And then the next one is up 3 notes. And then the next one is up 2 notes. And then the next one is up 4 notes. And so essentially, being able to find little patterns like that intuitively without thinking very hard is the utility of these vertical triads. The best way you could think about it is like this. Normally we play the triads in a chord sort of way, right? Where you play all the notes at the same time. You play those three notes together. Ba, 1, 3, 5, da. But in order to play it as a chord, right, which is when they're playing in chorus together, chord, you have to play those notes on different strings. Then a vertical triad is basically like you're playing it not all in the chord but on the same string. And so you're seeing the same relationship between notes expressed all on the same string. And so that is incredibly useful in basically every single major key, every single minor key, and then if we start practicing it for the diminished as well, every single diminished key. Because it gives you extra sensory abilities. Boring to practice, but it's one of those ones where it's really boring to practice, but it's still extremely useful to practice. Because it's really just all about ingraining those interval relationships. And so I'm just going to work on those vertical triads every day because we've more or less ingrained the triads. This is what's fucked up, is I kind of already had the triads ingrained because the triads present themselves in the modes, they present themselves in the Cage series, and so I end up using the triads. But like if we take this isolation exercise analogy, I've been isolating the triads and I've got them committed to like its own form of memory, which is good. I feel it already. We're zeroing in on a grander intuition, right? Because now I'm at the level where I've been playing with the major scale and its modes, those 7 modes, for so long. I don't think at all about the modes. I just play them. You see what I'm saying? I'm not even looking. I didn't even look at what I was playing, right? And so I want to get that good with the vertical triads too. Why am I like shivering? vertical triads. So here's what I say. We'll work on these vertical triads. We'll arpeggiate the triads. And then we're gonna do our picking rhythm things real quickly, and then we'll call it. And then we'll just get the fuck out of here. But you know, it's good that we put the time in. Today's not the best day. Fuck. So yeah, our intuition is just not fully trained with the vertical triads. Very often we'll be off by one note. No, what I do most of the time when I'm trying to like jump up is I'll slide up to it so I can hear. I can hear the notational, right? I'll be like, yeah, G. There we go, that's what I wanted, right? If we were to really nail these vertical triads, we can make those jumps with far more precision and without the need of the slide. Sometimes the slide sounds good, but a lot of the time you're just using the slide as a crutch rather than as a musical element. And it would actually sound better just to jump. That was a weird yawn. Alright, I'm gonna try D minor. Wait, hang on. Is my high E out of tune? I'm gonna do D flat minor because I'm just that badass. It's funny because if I was playing on piano, then it would be harder to play D flat minor. But this is guitar, it's all the same. Fuck. That's what I thought it was. Alright, so those are just the regular minor triads. So let's work on the vertical triads, where they're expressed all on one string. And so this idea we were talking about, how when you descend the inversions, then the order of triad gaps maintains the same. So we're at D flat right here, and it's a 2-note jump, and then we go down to E, which is the next note in the inversion on the next string, and then it's a 3-note gap. Then we go down to G sharp, and then it's a 4-note gap, right? Then we go to the next one, and then it's back down to a 2 gap, because this is D flat again, right? This is the octave D flat. And then we're at the octave E, and it's another 3 gap. And then we're at the octave G sharp, and then it's the octave 4 gap. Fuck. This is so random. Brace yourselves for this. Okay. Why are we allowing mentally unstable teenage girls to surgically remove their breasts? I saw the most disturbing shit last night. These TikTok girls. I don't use TikTok, of course, but I've seen some fucking horror stories on there, coming from there. It's like these girls, they're like, I want to be called Mike. I want to be called Mike. Why are you confusing me with a? Why do you think I'm a girl? I'm clearly a dude. See, I chopped off my tits. And it's like, where is that gonna go? You know, it's not like they're gonna live a happy life. You know, it's like it's easy to make fun of those types. I've done plenty of it. But I think at this point, the fact that society permits it and like we lie to these people and like doctors be like, no, that's totally the wise decision to make. At this point, I'm starting to feel really bad about it all. Both the tranny boys and the tranny girls. I feel bad for all of them. And not even in a condescending kind of way. I feel genuinely bad for them. Whew. I don't know where y'all went to school, whoever that may be, y'all. But man, out in the Bay Area, in San Francisco. That's like the belly of the beast. Um, Out here in this Austin, you see a lot of the tranny flags, but I tell you what, Texas, just being in the middle of Texas, innately brings the craziness level on that front. That is, I'm sure there's plenty of craziness, but on that front, the craziness level is significantly reduced. Yeah, and so it's like when you get people like Trump who are like, you know what, when I'm reelected, we're gonna take a serious look at all the trans kids and we're gonna put a stop to it. It's like, what, you gonna fucking vote for Biden? The fucking dude who's like started a whole new fucking war, proxy war. Why the fuck do we have to Ukraine? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why is that on our dime? Like it's not like okay, taxpayers. That's taxpayer money, right? You know what I'm saying? It's not just like there's you and then there's also the United States. You are the United States. And when they spend billions of dollars fighting this war, they're spending your money to fight this war that no one cares about. Sucks for you, Ukraine. Sorry, but you know what? In 2014, we fucking ran a coup and put in a fucking like prior to this invasion, if you looked up any article about Ukraine, it would be like the most corrupt country in Europe, the most corrupt country in Eastern Europe. Like people were just unanimous that like Ukraine was a corrupt, awful shithole, right? And the second that NATO tries to expand into there and start putting fucking nukes on Russia's border, like, put yourself, genuinely, put yourself in Vladimir Putin's shoes. You're just gonna take it up the ass? And so, from our propaganda, if you watch any news fucking thing, it's always like, Russia just totally started this totally unprovoked war. What the fuck is wrong with Russia? It's so unprovoked. It's blah blah blah. It was not an unprovoked war. It was a provoked war. Doesn't mean that's okay. War is a bad thing. But it was a provoked war. Well, Russia just invaded because they're bad guys. We're just the bad guys. Yeah, man. Crazy world we're living in. But Russia, whether or not they succeed or not, they're pretty much fucked as a country, which is a shame because they have one of the most beautiful and long and most poetic and fascinating histories on the planet. There's so much depth to Russian history. They have, like, most of the greatest authors in all of history are Russian. Tolstoy, Dostoevsky. They were the first people to make it to space. They suffered like hundreds and hundred years of brutal invasions and slavery. They had a monarchical system for hundreds of years. They had an empire. And then they had a revolution, and they were the first communist country. During the Cold War, it was a bipolar world, and there was America and there was Russia. Now, obviously, if you know anything about Russia in the past 100 years, um, they are bereft of good moral leaders. But they're a fascinating people. And in my mind, we should be friends with Russia. I see no utility for being enemies with Russia. We should be friends with Russia. After 9/11, the first person to call up not the first person, the first world leader who got George Bush on the phone was Vladimir Putin. and he gave them immediate permission to go to war, and that they were going to work together, and they were going to bring justice to who did this. But the one condition that he wanted, Putin, that he wanted, this is after the Cold War. The Soviet Union had collapsed. The one condition was that Russia would be allowed to join NATO, and that there would be no more just expansionary, aggressive behavior towards Russia. And they did not grant that request. And then Obama came into office and was even worse, I guess, from the Russian perspective, which put them in a position where they quickly went into the Crimean Peninsula, which this is you can play these moral arguments. It's like, or did they have a right to do that? Did they do that? Fundamentally, if you were to poll, like if it was up to a vote, where you took the people on the Crimean Peninsula and they got to vote whether or not they got to be a part of Russia or not, they would have unanimously voted to be a part of Russia. Now the war has definitely gotten out of hand. And at this point, we have too many awful, awful world leaders like Kamala Harris and a lot of like, if you look at the fucking like the Biden administration, I think we know who's running the strings. This is like an Obama this is like Obama's third term, basically. And at this point, both sides are in like a pissing contest because they want to win rather than doing the right thing and ending the war. There were like multiple times already early on in the war where Putin and Zelensky were ready to come to the negotiating table, when then NATO and Biden and America gave them the no, you can't come to the negotiating table. And so now Ukrainian women are allowed to leave the country, whereas if you are, and like if you were my age and I was in Ukraine, I would be drafted. And so, if that's wrong in Vietnam to force people to fight a war, why is it okay now? Obviously, there's not the same. There's not an equivalency. Vietnam was across the world, and it's a war that pretty much nobody understood. Why the fuck are we in the jungle? Why the fuck are we burning down these villages? What the fuck is going on? Uh, I think the Ukrainian war is easier to justify. It's like, oh, we're defending our homeland. But if you study history, you would know that Ukraine is historically Russian territory. There was the civilization of Kiev, Kievan Rus. That was the origin of Russian history, Kievan Rus. And so, if it's justified for the state of Israel to exist as it being historically Jewish lands thousands of years ago, and there's all sorts of little disputes like that throughout the world at all times. There's the whole issue of Taiwan. So at the end of World War II, China had a civil war, and it was between the nationalists and the communists. And the communists were led by Mao, Chairman Mao, Mao Zedong, and the nationalists who were supported by America and the West were led by Chiang Kai-shek, right? And essentially, after a long and grueling civil war, the communists won mainland China, whereas the nationalists fled to the island of Taiwan. And so, since the very beginning of the modern Chinese state, their sole objective was to reclaim Taiwan. And basically, what had happened since then is that Taiwan became a great manufacturer for our chip sector, right? But China has not given up on Taiwan. And there's this whole thing about the one state the one China policy. I think that was put in under Nixon, where Nixon basically had this famous thing where he flew into China and met with Mao, and basically they had made an agreement that there was one, as long as they refer to there being one China, that is, the mainland China and Taiwan were all a part of one China, theoretically, then he would open up the Chinese markets to trade. And so that was one of Nixon's major policy achievements. Yeah, basically now there's all these dicey situations in the South China Sea, essentially. So China has been running war games to like do an invasion for years, for like a decade now, because they're gearing up to invade Taiwan. But then they just watched Russia invade Ukraine, and then that invasion totally shit the bed. So now they're like having, oh, ding dong, ni hao, you know, they're having second guess, they're having second thoughts. All right. Well, that is my that is my geopolitics report. Uh, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. We're gonna do more practicing. All right, peace, everybody.